Hello, my name is Frederik. Today we're going to talk about something called labor-saving devices, and hopefully through this talk it'll become clear why and how that's relevant to physical training, physical work, and our lives in general. Broadly speaking, labor-saving devices are pieces of technology that are supposed to take something that required labor before and replace that with a machine or some kind of automated process that takes away the requirement for human labor. Now, there's certainly examples where that is a quote-unquote good thing, but what I want to highlight here in this talk is how there's also cases where this process is not necessarily for the benefit of us in general. So, just to start off with a very simple example that possibly most people can relate to is in the household. We have the need to eat food, and then afterwards we have to clean the dishes. Now, you can do this in two ways. You can do it the old-fashioned way, get soap the dishes, wash them off, put them aside. Or you can buy a machine that will do some of that process for you. I like the dishwasher as an example because it's not entirely clear to me that you actually end up saving any time from doing it, because you have to load the dishwasher. Sometimes you actually have to pre-wash the dishes before you put them in, then you press a button, something magical happens. Later on they're clean. But then you still have to take the dishes out and put them in place. So the actual time spent is not necessarily less if you use a dishwasher, but it does give you some, I want to call it idea or feeling that you are saving some energy or saving some time by using it. Another classic example from one of my favorite books, Walden, where Thoreau talks about at that time the railway was just coming into existence, and if you wanted to go to a place, you would have to pay quite a high fee to take the railway. But some people used it just because it was seen as a progressive thing to do. So he was talking with a friend about going to this particular place and then to do something. I don't know, go to a party possibly. Thoreau's point was like, yeah, that's fine, I'll walk there immediately, and he set out. And his stipulation was his friend could take the railway as well if he wanted to. But he would have to earn the price of the admission, the ticket of the railway first. And so when he had actually made the money to pay for the railway ticket, Thoreau had already arrived just from the simple act of just going on his 2 feet. So washing machine or just walking where you need to go shows quite clearly that the economy of using labor-saving devices is not always in our favor. So what all this points to is that labor-saving devices are things that point to they're devices that are sold as something that gives us leisure. They are saying that whatever they are replacing is something that belongs to the past, that we shouldn't engage in that process, that there's a more expedient, a quicker way to do it with less hassle. What I am contending here is to say that a lot of the time, if you actually look at it in a just kind of like what is the total of that situation, is not actually true. It's the perception that that's true, but it doesn't hold up to scrutiny a lot of the time. The other thing is that this idea of being sold leisure, a lot of the time it has to do with not enjoying what it is that you're doing, and you're actually avoiding, like, okay, I spend my time washing dishes in a state of stress, and whether I have a washing machine or not, dishwashing machine, it's still done in a state of stress, and it's not actually relieving that thing. And the way out of that is actually paying attention to the act of washing the dishes and see if you can find some kind of enjoyment in the thing. Like I've talked about with walking before, it's not something that you're doing to get out of it. Does that make sense? Like it is something you can find enjoyment in, and so that's part of where labor-saving devices kind of like inject themselves as a solution to that problem. Then there's obviously, like speaking more broadly, then there's a financial and ecological side to this. These devices, most of the time, they cost money. Maybe they shouldn't be produced in the first place. Maybe that could like lessen the impact on the planet. It's a slight tangent. The other thing is our physical environment, that if we take in a lot of these devices, that they tend to clutter the space around us. Then we need a bigger space to have all these labor-saving devices where we could live more at peace in a smaller place without all these devices. So that's also where that fits in. If we're talking about training, physical work, then a lot of these devices take away a skill set that before was it was something you did for yourself. You can talk about it being part of the economy, if you will, but it's something that we could do for ourselves before, and now a machine is coming in and taking that away. So in various ways we become de-skilled by having machines do all these activities for us instead. And so I mentioned before that like when you're doing, if you have the capacity or you should have the capacity to do physical work and still do your training, and we're becoming a little bit deconditioned if we remove all slightly repetitive, slightly demanding physical activities from our daily life. And that's also where I see labor-saving devices as something that's not necessarily a good. Yeah. All right. So what it all boils down to at the end is really just asking yourself the question, is there something in my physical environment, in my daily life, that I'm thinking of putting a machine in to do some of that stuff for me, or I already have a machine, maybe it needs to be replaced because it's broken, or something of that nature. It's asking, is there something that I can actually do for myself and I don't need a machine to do it? It doesn't mean that we don't engage with any labor-saving devices at all. In fact, that's quite impossible in our modern environment. It's just looking at, is there some kind of control that I can take back? And could I possibly find ways to be more physically active? Maybe there's some skills that you could relearn by looking at this process. It's more an orientational effort than anything else. And yeah, that's what I wanted to say about labor-saving devices. If you enjoyed this video, then consider hitting the little like button or the subscribe button. It will help me out tremendously. And as always, thank you for watching.